Good morning, Bishop Solly, and everybody who is attending. It's lovely to be with you. I was very encouraged this week by the WhatsApp group, all the testimonies on the WhatsApp group. It's just amazing to read how the Lord is working through all of you and already making a difference in your daily walk. I just quickly have to introduce my teaching assistant for this morning. His name is Brutus. He's my landlord's dog, so he was sitting with me on the, struggling to get rid of him, but I've got rid of him now. Now we can focus on the teaching. So we've looked at being a blessing in step one now. Now comes the fun part, or the even more fun part, and that is when we start in step two to cultivate relationships with people. Remember when Jesus sent out the 70 disciples in Luke 10? He said to them, go into people's houses. Now, so we interpret that a bit wider to say that in step 2 of Luke 10 transformation, we cultivate relationships with people. We move around every day. We have existing relationships. We have potential new relationships everywhere we go. Now, for the people with big mouths like myself, this is good news for us because we like to talk to people. We get our energy from people. But for the introverts, they think to themselves, oh, here comes the part where I need to start talking to other people, and this is the part that I do not like. So I would like you to rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. If you are somebody who likes being around people, who likes just talking to people all the time, if you are one of those networking people who, you'll go to a function or you'll go to maybe there's something on at your child's school and you'll go there, and by the time you leave, you've met 3 new people and you've got their telephone numbers. If you're one of those people, you can rate yourself high on the scale. So let's just rate where you said, just rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being very shy and 10 being very extrovert. How would you rate yourself? So I would give myself between a 7 and an 8 on the extroversion scale. Now, the good news for the people who rated themselves on the lower side of the scale is that step 2 is also for them. Because you see, the introverts are good at cultivating relationships, not because they are loud and outgoing, but because they have learned the secret that God gave us 2 ears and only 1 mouth for a reason. And that is because we should listen more than we talk. And the introverts are very good with that. They are good at listening to people. And we'll see as we move on to step 3, where we talk about addressing people's needs. Listening becomes very important. So in step 2, you can already begin with that. So in step 2, when we talk about fellowship or building relationships with people, if you go to your, Willem, can you perhaps enable me to share my screen? I want to share with you, so we are on page 33 of the equipping manual. There we go. Okay. So you'll see that in step 2, this is where we start talking to people around us. So God has given us new eyes because we've been praying in step 1. We've been praying God's blessing over people. God is giving us new eyes to look at those people. So now when we move around every day, all of a sudden we don't look at them with our regular eyes. We look at them with the eyes of an evangelist. That is the word that you must fill in there, in that little blank. We look at people with the eyes of an evangelist. And all of a sudden we don't just glance over them, but we become interested in their lives. We start asking ourselves whether they need Jesus. And if we see that they do, even if we see that they don't, we start engaging them and we cultivate relationships with them. So it is often very easy to cultivate relationships. I mean, the obvious way to do that is just to look for something that you have in common with someone. I use something where if somebody's maybe struggling with something, let's say there's a doorknob that works in a funny way, and I see people are struggling with a doorknob. I might tell them, oh, I always struggle with that too, but I've figured out this is how it works. Or so I try to disarm them by being also revealing my own, let's call it my own weaknesses, and that helps me to engage people in a meaningful way. So as we do this, we start engaging. Like I say, there are a million opportunities every day for you to engage other people. It might be, like I said, at a function for your child's school. It might be at work. It might be on your way to grab yourself a cup of coffee at the mall. There are 100 different opportunities for you to engage other people. So it is important that we always look at the customs or the culture in which we operate. So it's important that we don't that we are sensitive to that. So if we know that there is something that will offend somebody, we will steer clear of that. We're not going to offend people, and therefore we try and blend in, because that's how you make friends. Is you find something that you have in common with somebody else. Sometimes it can be as easy as pointing to something. If there's a nice sunset or there is something worthwhile happening, and you could just point to that and share it, because the other person has probably seen it and would like the opportunity to express that as well. So yeah, so like I said, not all of us are the outgoing type. Not all of us can just grab people, kind of by the arm and say, come have a cup of coffee with me. But for the introverts, those of you who listen well, that is your key to cultivating new relationships. Now, if we look at where we go with these relationships, the whole idea is to find out where people are. So we want to know how, where are they spiritually, but we don't just, kind of bash the front door down and say, if you land under the red bus today, will you be going to heaven or not? Most people will immediately put up their guard. So what we try and do is we try and draw them out by asking them about their stories, and that's the word that you can fill in there in your manual. We should try to discover other people's stories. So we ask them with real interest, and we must be very careful not to be fake. I mean, people aren't a little box on our to-do list that we just want to tick off and say, okay, fine, I've led another one to the Lord, hit and run, I can go to the next person. People can very easily tell if you are not sincere. And like the barriers will go up, and that will be that. You won't have any more chance to talk to that person about the Lord. So listen to people's stories, ask them where they come from. Do they have kids? Where do their kids go to school? There's 1,000 ways. People love talking about themselves. So if you give them half a chance, if you give them half a gap, they will do that all day long. And people feel cared for, they feel valued, they feel like you care for them if you make time to really attentively listen. And we must listen again with the ears of an evangelist. So we're not just listening to become better friends with them, we are also listening for any needs that they express. For example, if you ask somebody how they are, and they say, oh, the geyser broke, and I had to take a cold shower this morning and I don't know where I'm going to get money from to fix the geyser, or whatever the case may be. Then you know that then you are already cued into that person's need, so that when it comes to step 3, to addressing needs, you are already going to be there. Now, let's move on a bit in the manual, and we look at 2 different types of relationships. So we have intentional relationships, and then we have, let's call it the incidental relationships, or the kind of the things that just happen randomly. So with the more intentional relationships, that is where you decide, that parent at my child's school, I met him, he doesn't know the Lord, I would like to cultivate a relationship with him so that I get the opportunity to talk to him about the Lord. And And then you go about, you make sure that at every time you go to school to pick up your kid and you see that parent there, you go over to ask him how he is, or what he's up to. And so you are intentional about that. But then we also have random encounters with people. I mean, you stop at the filling station to fill up your car, or at the grocery store. You may have a short interaction with a cashier there, and that is also a fantastic opportunity to just in the space of 30 seconds impact a person's life for the better. I may have mentioned that this guy that I met at the traffic light the other day. I had a short encounter with him. I was able to pray for him, and later on when I passed there, he waved and he shouted that he'd gotten a job as I had prayed for him to get. So the Lord heard that prayer. So in 1 minute, I had the opportunity to impact that guy's life. And if I had let that slip, I may have missed that opportunity for the Lord to use me. And I would have been poorer for that. And Bennett, for whom I prayed, would also have been. So we have these two types of relationships, where the first one is the intentional ones, where we say, I'm going to target that guy, I'm going to pray for him, I'm going to cultivate a relationship with him. And then the second one is just the kind of the random encounters we have throughout the day. Now, it's all good and well to say that we want to cultivate relationships because we want to share Jesus with them. But what if they don't see Jesus in our lives? Or maybe they see Jesus in our lives, but then they see something else that contradicts that. And they think to themselves, oh my goodness, I thought that guy was a Christian, but just listen to his language. I mean, it's appalling. Or, just see how he handles his kids, or, listen to the way he talks to his wife, or whatever the case may be. So there are different ways in which we can put people off the gospel, and that is through our behavior. So in there we say it is important that we do not compromise. So don't compromise on behavior when you are a Christian. There are different things that people they look at us with eagle eyes, because especially when we profess to be Christians, they want to see whether our lives line up with what we say we believe. So don't, if you drink harder than the other people at the braai, if you lose your temper constantly, if you just talk bad about other people, if you are promiscuous, whatever, all those things will put other people off. Now, we say that our behavior is like an iceberg, and people only see the 10%. But that 10% comes from somewhere. It comes from down here. And if down here is a mess, then ultimately that will surface. We can't, we can only, they say you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. So if we don't address the things in our lives that need addressing, some other time it is going to surface, and people are going to see it, and that is going to put them off the gospel. So when we have sin in our lives, and that can be our language, can be our emotions, can be bad attitudes, annoying habits we have, any form of, it doesn't even need to be overt sin. Sometimes maybe you scratching your, maybe you digging your nose. That's off-putting to people. It's not a sin to do. It's not good manners, but it's not a sin either. But that might put somebody off. So we really have to be on our guard. But as far as sin goes, there can't be any leeway. And we need to address that. We must kill sin before it kills us. And it won't only kill us, it might kill our neighbor as well, because it might take away the opportunity we would have had to talk to that person about Christ. So don't compromise when it comes to sin. If you are maybe you are struggling with something that other people are not seeing. Maybe it's pornography, let's say. That happens. It's when you're on the internet, you're at home, you're alone, nobody else sees that except God, of course. And you think you're getting away with that, but that is filtering through in your life. And some other time you've got to fight that with everything you have. Don't think because other people don't see it, it's okay, I can get away with it. you're fooling yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot, and you're doing yourself a world of damage by not fighting that sin with everything you have. Now, we all, we play different roles in different places. At work, you may be the boss. At home, you may be the leader. You at school, you may be something different. We all have different roles that we play, and it's good to go and list them and say, okay, fine. The Francois at work, what does the work Francois look like? Francois at church, what does the church Francois look like? Francois out and about, what does the out and about Francois look like? And then under each of those, list things that you think might put other people off, and then pray God for grace to address those things so that you can eliminate them from your lives. So think of maybe in those 2 lines, you can write down some of the roles that you have, your work self, your play self, your at home self, and maybe you can list things. One of the great ways to see if you have any off-putting behavior, for those of you who are married, just ask your spouse. I promise you they've got a list this long of all the things that you do that are irritating or annoying. There's nobody that knows you better, and they will quickly sort you out and tell you what is wrong with you. Now, we've got to realize that yes, all of us are evangelists, and like I said, we are looking at people with new eyes. So we must remember that a good evangelist is like a magnet, and that is what you can fill in there. A good evangelist is like a magnet. He draws people to Christ. And that is what we are looking for. That is what we want to do. So if a good evangelist is like a magnet, that it means that we will draw people to the kingdom of God and not repel them. If you do find that you have things to work on, things in your life, maybe you struggle with honesty, maybe you struggle with temper, whatever the case may be, there's a great website called Character First that kind of gives you a program to address very specific shortcomings in your character. So by all means, visit that and see what you can do about that. There's a long passage in Romans, and I would urge you to read that. We don't have the time to read through the whole passage now. Romans 13 to 14. So the verses are highlighted for you. I mean, everything is here in your manual. But if you look at that, Paul talks about the importance of our outward behavior in our witness for Christ. And this is really so important. We other people are watching us constantly, and we need to do better, really, as Christians. In the church, the divorce rate is as high, if not higher, than in the world, and that's not a good testimony. And we need to address that. In other areas, are we better than the world in terms of reporting our taxes? Are we better than other people in not accepting bribes or reporting when we are asked for one? A lot of things like that. We really need to step up our game, and we can only do that through the grace of God and by an intentional decision to do something about it. So please go just read that passage when you have some time over the weekend, and just look at how important our testimony is. Now, if we look at like I said, it is very important for us not to give offense to people. So we should not do anything, that first line, we should not do anything which could cause offense to any neighbor. And in South Africa, that also means being sensitive to our cultural differences. So if I know, something is offensive to my Xhosa brother, I'm going to do my very best not to offend him. If you know that something is offensive to another person, why would you want to offend that person and miss an opportunity to share the gospel? Now, what do we do with this offensive language? We've said that you need to eliminate it. You need to fight it with everything you have, and they don't settle for half measures here. If you struggle with pornography, go join a support group. There are get a few men together, start holding each other accountable. If you struggle with bad language, say to the people in your home, I'm going to put a 2 Rand coin or 5 Rand coin in this jar every time I say a swear word. Whatever the case may be, and you tackle it from two sides. First, you try to arrest the behavior, but then also you try to get enough of God inside you through His Word and through prayer and through quiet times, so that a new you grows that ultimately does not contain all that. So first you try to arrest the behavior, and then you change from the inside by the grace of God and His Holy Spirit, so that ultimately you can take the lid off, and there won't be anything bad coming out, because you will be a new person. Now, we've talked about secret sins. Now the devil will come and say to you, you can't do Luke 10 because you struggle with pornography. The guy that you pray for doesn't know that you struggle with pornography, and you've already confessed your struggle to the Lord, and you are covered in the blood of Jesus. So there's nothing that prevents you from doing Luke 10. If you are struggling with something that is very overt, maybe you lose your temper every 15 minutes, maybe wait until you've got that more under control before you start doing Luke 10. Otherwise, you are going to do more damage than good. But don't let Satan tell you that you can't do Luke 10 because you've got sin in your life. All of us are sinners. In fact, sometimes the biggest testimony is if we publicly confess our sins, and if we have an outburst, say, I'm so sorry I had that outburst, it's something I'm struggling with, and I've asked God to help me with that. Please help to hold me accountable. That is one of the ways. Then people think to themselves, wow, this guy, I didn't like that outburst of his, but he's quite open and sincere about his desire not to be like that. I can identify with that because I might be struggling with something completely different, but there's also something that I do that I want to stop. But don't let sin keep you from doing Luke 10, otherwise you will never start. None of us are close to perfect. We've all got lots and lots to give, room to grow. Now, with our sins, what we talked about, waiting on God, that we talked about last week, that's also a great opportunity for you, to get quiet during the day and just get quiet before God. Just wait on Him and say, Lord, going into this meeting now. I know it's going to be quite tense. Won't you please just grant me the calm I need in order not to lose my temper? So as you go through the day, wait on God, and God will just give all your struggles to Him, and He will help you through it. Now, if there are any direct hindrances, like I said, do whatever it takes to get rid of that. It can be talking to a Christian friend. It can be go talking to your pastor. It can be going to a professional Christian counselor or biblical counselor. Whatever it takes, make sure you get rid of that sin. And I'm talking of experience here. There are things that I struggled with for years and years and years until I decided, I'm not having any more of this. And I went to counseling. I joined a support group. I got rid of stuff, and it's made. I just feel such a the burden just went to just off. It didn't go away overnight, but there's a definite before and after. And if I look back at my life 5 years ago in my life now, I'm so grateful that I went to all that trouble, because I have much more freedom in my relationship with Christ, and it's just so great to be rid of that. And it is helping me to be a better witness for Christ. The last thing we're talking about before we break, there is a movement in South Africa called Unashamedly Ethical. And it is basically, one of our biggest problems in South Africa is corruption. It's not just in the public sector. We hear about that every day with the Zondo Commission and whatnot. But in the private sector, there's equally, an equal amount of corruption. And so in South Africa, we need a big movement of people who say, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm not going to let our country go to the dogs because of corruption. I'm going to be one of the ones who say, I'm standing in the way of this. And so Unashamedly Ethical has a pledge that you can sign. It's at the back of the training manual, as you can see now. And it says there's an individual commitment form where you pledge to be truthful in what you say. You pledge to be faithful in your relationships. You pledge to look out for the interests of other people, to make peace between people. Can you imagine if we have, out of the 55 to 60 million people in South Africa, if 20 million of them committed to be unashamedly ethical? Can you think of the amazing difference it would make in our country? And so we need people who will stand up and say, I'm not going to just go with the flow. I'm not going to, if that speed cop, pulls me over and says, oh, for 50 Rand, I can let it slide. I'm not going to go that. I'm going to report that. So let's look at that. When we break now, you will have the opportunity to look at this form and to say, I want to become part of this unashamedly ethical movement in South Africa. Now, just back to where we were. Willem, you can maybe come back, and then we can then you can guide us on how we take this forward.
Yes. Thank you, Francois. How we will do the breakout is all together. So if everybody can open it, if you can put on the screen the unashamedly ethical pledge again, please.
Sure. Here we go.
Thank you so much. So what I would like you all to do now is, just think about the things in your life. You know yourself, and as Francois said, if you can even after today ask your wife or kids if there's things that you might be doing that if the people there where you move will see you do it, it will put them off Christ. And just think for a moment about that. And then, Francois, if you can just take them through the unashamedly ethical commitment and ask for a moment where they'll decide, yes, I will commit, yes or no. Over to you.
Okay, so let's give a minute or two where you just think about the things in your own life. Let me call up a timer, and we are going to give a minute or two where we think about the. Let's give it 2 minutes. When you think about things, and we spoke about those different roles. So let's do that where we have a timer where we. Where we think about the things that we need to eliminate in our own life. Oops, just kill that. Okay, so I'm going to share something, and this is something I'm not proud of, but I feel that God is calling me to share it in this group, and that is something that I'm not very good at. Is to something I'm not very good at is to to administer my finances. I make money and I spend money, but I don't have a proper budget, and I kind of know in my head this must go there, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And I've actually had a close family member tell me that it is hurting my Christian witness. So that is something that I will try to improve, and something that so that other people can't look at my finances and say, but we don't know if we even want to listen to that guy because he can't even administer his finances properly. So that is something that I'm sharing with you. If you will pray for me, I'll appreciate that, and I'm going to ask God to help me to do better. All right. Now let's go through the Unashamedly Ethical form. I'm just going to browse through it. Yes, Philip?
There is a request to show the whole document. I don't know if you can just
I will do that. I can do that. Should come up. There we go. Is that better?
It's actually smaller.
Do you want it bigger? Okay, this is the full screen mode where it shows the whole document. I can try to make it bigger. Yeah. Just hang on.
Yeah.
Need to get rid of my Zoom screen. Here we go.
Yeah.
Is that better?
And Donnie, is that good for you?
Okay. So
good for me. I've found alternative ways of seeing the whole screen. I appreciate. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's read through Unashamedly Ethical, and then at the end you can decide. We'll give you a moment to decide whether you want to add your name to the many people who've already signed this. So it says, as a signee to Unashamedly Ethical to the pledge, I commit to be entirely truthful in all I say, to be faithful to my family relationships, to do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but to look out for the interests of others, to refuse to elicit, accept, or pay any bribes, and to report those who do, to be a diligent leader without being harsh, and to pay my staff what is just and fair, to be a peacemaker. Isn't that important? To do my whole work wholeheartedly, to submit myself to just and ethical governing authorities, to remember the poor by investing generously and sacrificially in the broader community, and to collaborate with my peers to impact our community and nation. And then there's room for your signature, the date, you can say where you signed it, and then you can fill in your details, take a photo, and you can send it to Unashamedly Ethical. You can go submit it on the website. You can submit the photo of your form on the website, or I believe there will be an email address on the website as well. So again, let's give a minute or so for you just to read through the form on your own again, and we'll take it from there. That is on page 72 of your training manual. If you want to jump there in your PDF reader. Okay, I hope you've all had the opportunity to sign or to make the decision to sign. You can do the actual signing later on. Willem, is there an electronic means on the website to sign it electronically and submit it?
Yes, they've now made it very easy. You go on the website, it is on the document, and then you can just go to Authentic Commitment and you can sign it, and then you can print a beautiful commitment that you can put on the wall in your study or in your office.
Okay. All right, so we're going to have a 5-minute break before we continue to step 3. There's just one last little bit in step 2. So one of the things that we do in step 2, we say that at step 2 is preaching Christ without using words. But the one exception we do make is that sometimes it's good for us in a public place to just show our faith publicly, because sometimes it enables us to connect to other people or to maybe just get their juices flowing in a direction. So when we sit in a restaurant and we get food, we say grace publicly. Just bow your head, close your eyes, pray for 15 seconds, thank the Lord for the food, ask Him to bless the restaurant, the people who work there, and ask Him that His presence may be felt in that place. And just that small public token of worship is often what triggers conversations with somebody else, or what gets people thinking of, why does that guy do that? So that when you start the conversation with them, you've already got a foot in the door. So that is something that you can read about at the end of step 2. Now, we are going to continue, and I hope everybody is still on board and still agrees that anybody older than 12 and younger than 100 can do step 2. So if you have any kind of reservations, maybe we can quickly look at that when we get back. For now, I'm going to just start a 5-minute timer on my screen, and then when we get back, we will do start with step 3. Okay, everybody, we can start making our way back. Hope everybody had a bit of a stretch break and just got the oxygen flowing again, your circulation, blood circulation pumping. I quickly want to give the opportunity. Is there anybody with any question after step 2, cultivating relationships, fellowship or building relationships? Is there anybody with a question who maybe wonder about something? How do you do that? How do you do this? What do you do if this happens? I just want to give, I don't want to move on before we've handled that.
Yes, Francois. Then Dani asked a question in the chat. Could you explain the concept of character first and how to use the library? It is actually a course, and what I will do is, thanks Dani for the question, I will just write out, because they've changed their ways of doing it. I will write it out and distribute it probably via the WhatsApp group in the next week.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bishop Solly, I wonder, is there maybe somebody in the group who just wants to give their feeling about step 2? You can come up to the microphone to share it with us. Not right away. Okay, I'm not getting any sound. Can anybody else hear?
I can't hear.
No, I just wanted to confirm, to say from this side, you can see they are all under the masks. So I think later they will come in and share in their thoughts around all the steps that which we have done. Thank you.
Okay, 100%. Thanks, Bishop Solly. Is there anybody else in front of an individual screen? Tuso Mafumo, can I ask you to maybe give your thoughts on step 2 about building relationships? So if you are there, you can just unmute yourself and maybe share with us. Okay, Tandi Mulitsi. Tandi, can you share with us your thoughts on building relationships? Just unmute yourself and share with us. Maybe some people aren't back from the break, or maybe they just had
We
to speak.
also have a hand from Pastor Andrew.
Ah, Pastor Andrew. Pastor Andrew, is there anybody that anybody else who wants to maybe just give their thoughts on step 2, building relationships?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, I see Pastor Andrew is unmuted. We're glad to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Francois, for this generous.
Pastor Andrew, can you just speak up? We're struggling to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
No, not yet.
It's very faint. Very faint.
Can you hear me now?
Very faint.
Okay, I'm just gonna increase the volume. Hello, can you hear me?
Sure. You'll have to either move closer to the mic or maybe use another device, Pastor Andrew. Your voice is very, very faint.
Okay, then I think I should just come close to the mic. Can you hear me?
Yes. It's all better already.
Okay, good. Yeah, I say thank you so much, Pastor Francois, for this generous explanation on the relationship, because on my own view, is that Christianity is all about relationship, you know, and relationship with God, relationship with yourself, and relationship with man. Because if you don't have it with God, you cannot have it with yourself. And if you don't have it with yourself, you cannot have it with others. This is very critical on us doing evangelism, outreach ministry, and so forth and so on. Even though as we are under the auspices of grace, we need to, like my wife was just sharing, he said that we need this manual to even teach people for character building. It's quite brilliant, and we really love it. And there are a lot of things that we are also changing in our lives, as you are just saying. You know, the way to use money, the ways to relate with one another, the way to forgive. This is so brilliant. I'm so much excited to be part of this today, Pastor Francois and Pastor Jobert. And we really appreciate that. And the thing I want to say lastly is that there is a point that you touched on that's really touched my heart about the area how to share your faith, even in public place. Because sometimes in the world system, people are not afraid to speak vulgarly or to speak words that are not correct. But we are even afraid to say Jesus in public. We are even afraid to pray in restaurant, you know, to bow down our head to pray. But others in the world, they do those things without being afraid. So we must adopt that, you know, whenever we are in a public place or whenever we are, because that is a way of indication for people to know that these people are different, you know. And also you share on the area of, you know, character, even in the city. I'm coming from South Africa there. I have a ministry through Tower of Grace and Port Elizabeth. I was one day driving and a policeman stopped me, you know, and then asking me to give him cold water in the day. You know, in South Africa, some police, they will say, give me cold water. If it is winter, give me tea. And I, you know, refuse. I said, I cannot do that. You know, I can't do that. I said, and if you continue to press with this, because the reason was I forgot my license at home. I have my license. I was dropping a brother and I forgot my license. And the guy was very furious with me because I forgot my license. Because you have a system that this man have a license in your system. So you must just check. And then I will go back home and bring it, but not to come and tell me to give you 50 rand. I said, I can't do that. And the moment I pressed further, I said, if you continue to do this, I'm going to report you. And the guy quiet and left me alone. So this is one of the way we need to actually, we can stop corruption, you know, in the private sector, in our lives, and then even in our businesses. You talk about tax declaration and things like that. We need to do that because we are different, more especially as Christians. We must apply that. I believe it's going to be a blessing to many. We can change situation very quickly when we do what the Lord have told us to do. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. God bless you.
Thank you, Pastor Andrew. That is fantastic feedback. That is so great to hear. Yeah, we really need to hold ourselves to a high standard. And what you say about prayer in public places, there's research out. It was done 2016 or thereabouts. That increasingly the world is becoming hostile to Christians. You know, earlier people thought that, even people who didn't believe thought that, yeah, Christians are good people and it's good that they believe what they believe. But that has changed now. And where, you know, you used to have people who are like hardcore atheists, and then you had a big, like, middle portion of people who didn't really believe, but they thought Christians were harmless, and then you had Christians here. But that part in the middle has shrunk, and people are more and more hostile to Christianity. And that is why we need to, not in a hostile way, but in the gentle way of Jesus, we need to reclaim that ground. And we need to, and that happens when we pray in public places, when we offer to pray for other people, when we do the things that normal Christians do, that are considered radical in our day. that we should keep on doing those things and not shy away from doing them, because that is we need to be proclaiming the kingdom of God, not just in the sense of evangelism, but also for God to restore His rule and reign on earth. And that is what we do when we take those public places back and claiming it for God. Okay, thank you for the wonderful feedback. We're